Hey guys, it's Rogowy here, and today we are looking at how to master the clone stamp tool, how to use the healing brush tool, how to use the patch tool, all of the kind of cool tools that are built into Photoshop that most beginner photographer slash editors have trouble with. So this is probably one of the more basic videos that I've done in a while, but it should help you out anyways. So I'm going to start with this image, wedding.tiff. Now keep in mind, these techniques are extremely helpful if you want to take somebody out of a shot, maybe ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, that kind of comes to mind, I don't know. But whatever you want to take out of a shot, if you get good with this, you can do it really, really nicely and pretty naturally as well. So I'm going to open up this image called wedding.tiff. With Photoshop, and there's the picture we are working with. Command 0 to fill the screen. And you can see that we got this nice couple, they're exchanging their vows, and we're going to make some edits to this photo very quickly and easily. Now in this particular photo, I've already got a channel that I've built, so I'm going to go Window, Channels, and now I'm just going to look, oh I'm sorry, it's not a channel, it's a path, and it's called Outline. And I'm going to load this selection so now we can see the marching ants around our subjects. So we know that we have that outline selected. And by default, Photoshop selects everything within the line. So we want the background selected because that's where we're going to make the changes. So we're going to go Select, Inverse, and now you'll notice that we have everything else selected except for the couple. All right, we're going to start pretty basic here. We're going to start easy. And I'm going to start with something that's very obvious and quick to fix. And that's this wire coming out of the back of her neck. All right, it's probably one of the first things I see when I'm looking at this photo that it should be taken out. So in this case, we're going to use the tool called the Spot Healing Brush. And the way this works is we're going to have it set up here to content aware. That means that it's comparing everything around what we're trying to take out. And the mode is normal. And the brush size is 19. That's fine. And I'm going to use kind of a softer sort of brush, maybe about 50%. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint over what I want it to remove. So I'm going to paint, and you're going to see that it goes dark. Just going to paint over that wire like so, all the way down to the bottom here, and then let go. And voila! As you can tell, Photoshop has magically gotten rid of that wire, and it's filled it with grass that is found nearby. Now that is very quick and easy. You can't get any easier than that. However, it really only works for things that are very obviously, how do I explain, cutting through the image. So like a wire, if I had phone or telephone lines going through a shot or whatever, that's where it works best. All right, if we get into more complicated things, then we're going to have a lot harder of a time doing that. So the next one I'm going to show you is the patch tool. And you can see that we have this Inukshuk back here. And I'm going to switch to the patch tool, which is also found under the same tool. There it is, patch tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a selection. Whoops. Let's undo that. I forgot that I already had this selected, so cancel. I'm going to deselect what I have selected. So I'm going to press Command D. And I'm going to draw a selection around the Inukshuk, just like this. All right, that now becomes my selection. Now the way that this patch tool works is I just click within here and move to what I want to replace that Inukshuk. So I've moved to the left, found this patch of grass, and you can see I'm trying to line it up a bit. Or I could have went to the right, except then I'm going to get a bit of her back. So I'm going to go right in here, let go, and Photoshop will magically fill that in. So if I press Command D, you can see that Photoshop did a pretty good job of erasing that Inukshuk that was there. Now I'm going to go back to the outlines, and this time I'm going to hold Command once again And I'm going to invert my selection so that now the background is selected one more time. And now I'm going to move down to the bricks, right down here. This time, I'm going to use the clone stamp tool. And the clone stamp tool, if you haven't used it before, it takes a little bit of practice, but I'm going to show you. Shortcut is S. And I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. And once again, I want to make sure my hardness of the brush is about 25%. I want to keep it pretty soft. And the way that the clone stamp works is we need to set a reference point in the picture. So if we want these bricks gone, we probably want them to be filled with grass. So what we do is we hold the Option key, and you'll notice that my cursor changes to a target, changes to a bullseye, and I'm going to click in the grass that I want. Now you'll see that I got a little preview of what it's going to paint down in the bottom. What I've done is I've set a reference point up here, and it's basically just taking what's over there and painting it down here. So now I can start painting. You'll notice that it does a great job, and it allows me to just paint out those bricks. Now look what happened down here. The bricks come back because what happened is the reference point, which is about right there, all right, you can see the little crosshairs, has hit the bricks. But as you'll notice, if I paint again, I can get rid of that. Now that's an important note. Sometimes you have to keep setting reference points to fix up mistakes that you might have made with the clone stamp. I'm going to move back up my image here, and the way I'm doing that, if you're just starting out in Photoshop, I'm just holding the space bar. You can also use the scrolly wheel on the mouse, that works too. You'll notice in here that the patch tool didn't do a perfect job of patching out the inukshuk, so I'm going to once again hold my my Option key, and I'm just going to bring some of that grass over so that it looks more natural. Alright, so we got rid of the inukshuk, we got rid of the cord, and we got rid of the bricks. We're off to a good start here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this arbor that's on the right hand side. You can see a bit of it sticking into the picture. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to use what I've got over on the left side to fill in what's on the right side. So for this, I'm going to need to show my rulers. I'm going to drag a guide down to the point where the water line and the trees meet. And I'll explain why in a second. All right, I now let go. The way I did that is I just clicked inside the ruler and dragged out a guide. Now the reason I did that is it's safe to assume that behind these three, there is a lake, and water would be flat all the way across. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my clone stamp one more time. I'm going to hold Option, and I'm going to set my reference point right on the water line. Just like that. Now when I go over here, I can set it so that the water line is right on the line over on the right side. And now I can start painting. All right, once we get up into the tree, you'll see that it's going to get the leaves from the left side. We're just going to have to go really carefully, slowly and carefully. All right, and maybe I will switch to a softer brush in a second. But you'll notice that it's not bad. All right, it's really not that bad. It creates a believable result here on this side as I go up into the tree. Notice I got a bit of a line there, so I'll come back to that after. Now I'm going to paint down. You'll notice that it's referencing everything on the left side, and it's painting out the arbor beautifully. We also have the shadow from the tree, which is going to be kind of horizontal here as well, so we want to make sure that lines up. And now we're just going to paint it as far down as we can get. Now look what happens down here. When we get down here, we're getting white. And the reason for that is we've touched the dress over on the left side. So this is what I'm saying is that sometimes you have to set multiple reference points. So now I might want to fill this grass over here. So I'm going to go with the Option key once again, click in there, and just start painting grass in the area that's supposed to have grass. All right, I hit the edge of my picture on the left side, so I got to fill that in too. All right, basically, it's a lot of holding Option, finding a new reference point, and just filling it in. Now, once again over here, holding an Option, or sorry, holding my Option key, I'm going to fill in where this little edge of the picture kind of happened here. It didn't look very good. So I'm just going to kind of fill that in. Whoops. You know what? I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to pick a point over on the left-hand side of the picture, and I'm going to just use that as my reference point instead. Okay, you just have to be careful that it doesn't look too fake. All right, so maybe I'll go all the way up to this part like that. So we look like we got the tree branch hanging down. Same with up here. I'm going to kind of fill that in with some branches that I've got to work with off the left side, so it's not too noticeable what I did. And I'm just going to kind of fill that in. All right, so Command 0. You can see what we've done there. We've taken out the items on the left side, the cord, the statue, the bricks. We've taken out the whole entire arbor on the right-hand side pretty quick and easily. And actually, I'm going pretty slow for the tutorial. I'm explaining things. When you get good at this, you can actually become very quick at editing your photos. Now, let's try something crazy. Let's try to get rid of the lady in the middle. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to once again use the clone stamp. I'm going to put my reference point on the waterline once again. I'm going to put that somewhere near the middle of her face, and I'm going to start painting from left to right. Now I'm just focusing on her head here. All right, I'm not looking at anything else, just her head. I'm not trying to do too much at once. And if it all went well, you have this headless person in the middle. Okay, once again, referencing the same little patch of water in all three locations. All right, now let's try, I'm going to leave the microphone. I might actually use a different method for that. We'll see how that goes. Now you'll notice we got this kind of tall grass, it goes from grass to tall grass to bush and then lake. So we're going to use this tall grass on the left side. Hold Option, click reference point, and we're going to just paint that tall grass in to get at her shoulders. Now we got to be really careful at the trunk of the tree, because as you'll notice, the tree trunk comes down, and we don't want to have a floating tree. This isn't Minecraft. So now we're going to select the brush over on the side again. I'm just going to fill it in right up to the edge of that trunk of the tree. All right, I'm just going to fill that in just like that. All right, once again, I'm going to paint out everything there. Now, you might have wondered why, I forgot to mention why we did a selection at the beginning. You'll notice that I can't paint within them. I'm clicking and trying to paint right now inside of her. I can't, because the selection is telling Photoshop that we only want to edit the background. We don't want to edit them. So this just kind of makes life easier when we're editing a photo if you have a good selection around your subjects. So now we want to fill this in with bush, some of these thicker bushes. I'm going to try a different method here. For this one, I'm going to use the healing brush tool. And the difference between the clone stamp and the healing brush tool is the healing brush is a much more intelligent cloning method, at least in most cases. What it does is it references everything around the picture. Okay, so I'm going to set a point, a reference point. It's not only going to use this as reference, but it's also going to reference the pixels around so that it blends seamlessly with the original picture. So it works very much like the clone stamp, except that it references everything around and makes a much more natural blend in. Now there are times when you would not want to use the healing brush, especially in areas where there's a light to dark transition, because what it'll do is it'll reference those dark or light pixels, and it'll drag that color into the area that you've used the healing stamp on. Hopefully that makes sense. You know what, let me try to use an example of that. Let's say I was trying to clone this out and I had this dark area next to the light area. So I'm going to go and grab some grass from over here. And I start painting it out as if I was using the clone stamp. But because of this black that's next to it, watch what happens when I let go. It pulls the black from the pixels nearby to create that blend. So you don't always want to use it. I actually want to switch back to clone stamp now, reference some of the grass exactly as I just did, and I'm going to start painting out the body of this lady in the middle. All right, so you can see that things are going smoothly. All right, we got this repeat in the grass, as you can see, so we can kind of fix that up. I can use the grass over here to kind of change it up so it doesn't look so repetitive. We also want to make sure that the shadow of the tree lines up with where it's supposed to be. So you can see I'm constantly setting new reference points and just bringing everything so that it looks proper in the picture. Now I haven't touched the trunk of the tree yet. I'm going to be careful with that, so I'm just avoiding that area for now. But you can see, Command 0, that we've managed to take out the top half of the lady pretty nicely without any real noticeable obvious mistakes. All right, now for the trunk of the tree, got a couple options here. All right, what I personally would like to do with this is I'm going to set my brush to a harder brush, maybe about 75%. I'm still on the clone stamp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my reference point along the edge of the trunk, right along the edge. And what I'm going to do is very carefully draw down where the trunk would extend. All right, I didn't go off because if I go off, I'm going to get the bushes and stuff that would be higher up. I don't want that. Then on this side, I'm going to reference the bushes that are closest to it, and using the same method, I'm just going to very carefully draw upwards and downwards to create a nice, solid looking trunk that has come down where that piece was missing. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now the rest of the picture is pretty easy. We can get rid of the lower half pretty easily. We've got this big patch of grass and shadow over on the left side. I'm going to just set my hardness down to 25% once again. And I'm going to use this shadow as my reference, and I'm going to set my point on the transition between the light and dark area. Click there, and now I'm just going to paint out the lower half of the lady. Now, you know, it takes a little bit of creativity, and sometimes you do need to, you know, think about where you set your point. Obviously, you can't just pick anywhere. And you also have to look at things like, you know, the shadows, how they would look, the lake, okay, because if you had the water line up here, then that doesn't make any sense. So you do have to look for those sort of things when you're doing this to make it look natural. So once again, I'm going to reference this grass over here, and I'm going to just kind of fill in more of the area. All right. And once again, I'm using this grass a lot over on the left side, but again, it's grass. Nobody's going to be able to tell the difference anyways. And now I've got enough grass in here that I can use, so I'm going to once again option click and just get rid of, whoops. Let's get some more grass going here. It's all fake, but it looks good anyways. So now we're going to get rid of all of this lower part, including the bricks of this lady that was there. All right, so we've got pretty much, oh, little piece here. We've pretty much got her complete, yeah, we got her completely removed. And so I'm going to just go Command 0. I'll show you what I've got as a result. There we go. I'm going to press Command D. Actually, sorry, I'm not going to Command D just yet. So as you can see, using different tools, we use the patch, we use the healing stamp, healing brush, we use the spot healing brush, we use the clone stamp. All of these tools are great for removing things that you don't want in your photos. Now we're going to add one last sort of touch to this picture. If you were really bad and you had noticeable mistakes in your cloning, what I can also do here is I can add a bit of a blur to it so it looks like I used a shallower depth of field or a smaller aperture perhaps. And I'm just going to blur it a bit. All right, so we have more depth of field in this picture than we originally had. All right, and if you don't go overboard, then it won't look fake. It'll be okay. I'm gonna hit OK and press Command D. And there you go. As you can see, I'm gonna just delete this or move this off. As you can see, we've managed to take out the lady that was in the middle. We took out the statue. We took out a lot from this picture, and it still looks pretty decent. All right. One last touch I'm going to do here is I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. I'm going to turn on Colorize. Now I could do this on a separate layer. I'll duplicate my layer by right-clicking, duplicating, because you never want to affect your original picture. Could have done that right at the start too. And now I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, Colorize. And now we can add a nice sepia effect or a black and white effect, whatever we want, to this picture really quickly and easily. And as you can tell, this particular couple would be none the wiser because you can't see any obvious editing mistakes from what we did. However, if we go to our history and we look at what we started with compared to what we ended with, it is a huge, huge, huge difference, obviously. All right, there's what we started with, and there's how it ended up. So anyways, I hope this was helpful to you. If you're just starting out in Photoshop and you're not quite sure how to use the clone stamp, I recommend you practice a lot and try different things, try to take out different things and so on, and just, you know, test yourself with each of these tools. And the more practice, the better you'll get, and hopefully you'll become a master at this in no time at all. Till next time, thanks for watching.